Hello everyone. You might have noticed recently that I changed my channel name to Chocolate, and that's because I haven't made a cars related or Minecraft related video in like at least 3 years. So it just wasn't appropriate to my content anymore. Renamed it to Chocolate because I really like chocolate and yeah, that's just my explanation. Anyway, uh, let's get started. Recently, as you can see, I switched to Windows. Um, I'm not really the biggest fan of Windows, but it is what it is. I'm in Windows and uh, I had been using Linux for about like almost half a year, and I've been using Windows for at least like 5 to 6 years before that. I'm not an advanced user in either of them, but I feel like I've explored most of the things that the average desktop user would. So today I'm gonna try to get this video done in under 10 minutes because I've heard from people that I'm making them too long. So let's get started anyway. So what are some actual benefits of Windows as compared to Linux and vice versa, and some myths that can that can mislead people. So Windows pros, app compatibility. I know you can get many more apps on Linux. Like, realistically, basically, all of the apps that I really needed or wanted to worked on Linux. And uh, it isn't anywhere near as far behind as it used to be even a few years ago. However, that doesn't mean that you can get anything on Linux. An example, my browser. You can't get orc on Linux. Now, this isn't really Linux's fault because that was the choice of the orc developers. They didn't make it for Linux. But the thing is that you can get it on Windows, so Windows is better in that regard. I mean, it's not just orc, obviously. Quite a few apps like the Blue Book app. I don't know if you can play Fortnite in Linux. And there are quite a few games, even on Steam, which work on Windows and not on Linux. So, there Steam wasn't as big of a solution as you might think. It definitely helped a lot in game compatibility, but it isn't the only thing that Linux should do. Uh, Heck, even the College Board Blue Book app doesn't work on Linux. So, there's app compatibility still is better on Windows. I'm not saying it's crap on Linux, it's definitely a lot better than it used to be, but Windows still leads in that regard. I'm gonna put a smiley face every time I'm done talking about something, just so I can keep track. One good thing I liked about Windows as compared to Linux, and I know this first off, this is mostly personal. Secondly, you can change them in both. I just found it more suitable for me in Windows, the touchpad gestures. I know people say that Macs are better in this regard. I've never used a MacBook, so I can't comment. Um, but I really like Windows gestures. You can minimize, show apps, full screen, and you have an app switcher, workspace switcher, and if you don't like these, you can just change them. I think these are already changed, so like um, yeah, advanced touch. You can just change all of these. I made it like this because I thought that was a really cool way to just like um start split screen. But yeah, they can be really powerful and customizable in both of them. But a personal preference is just that for me, Windows works better in this regard. Uh, this is a really small reason, but yeah. Another good thing about Windows is that because people have been using it for so long, there's like you're more likely to get support on Windows. For example, my dad has basically used Windows for all his life, and imagine I have like a microphone issue. Well, I'm not exactly gonna ask my dad for help. He's actually gonna be mad because like, no, like if I had like a microphone issue in Linux, I'd have to do something with like I don't know Pulse Audio or whatever. My dad doesn't even know what Pulse Audio is, so like he would be really unhelpful. So like at certain times you just have to revert to like online forms, and I guess these days most people would probably just do ChatGPT if they don't just want the problem to get solved quickly. And with Windows you don't always have to do that. At least from my experience. And the next point sort of connects to that. It's that typically because Windows has been used for so long, you would spend less time troubleshooting. Now, this is a bit of a double-edged sword because it's more like you can't troubleshoot Windows as much as you can Linux. It's so accessible, or like all of your system components are so accessible in Linux. It's not the same way in Windows. Uh, like it's out of your control anyway in Windows, so you can't troubleshoot as much as you can on Linux. So yeah, and the last good thing about Windows, uh, in case you want to use like some Linux stuff, you can just set up WSL on Windows. That way you kind of have the best of both worlds. So like if I open the terminal here, and then I type like WSL, I didn't actually install anything, but like you can, I forgot the command. I think it's like list or something. Shoot, seriously? Oh, WSL.exe. Interesting. Dash. You can see I'm really bad at using Windows. Okay. What's the list command dish? Hmm. Hmm. Wait, how do I see? Okay, WSL. Okay. See, you could literally just like install it, like the CLI of any of these Linux distributions. That's sick. That's probably like one of the coolest features that Microsoft has made. I couldn't really think of a way I'd use this. I mean, I don't need to because I got all of my stuff working on Windows pretty easily. But still, I mean, this is really cool for the people who use a lot of Linux things but also would prefer the comfort of Windows. So that's WSL is probably a killer feature of Windows, to be honest. That's about where the Windows pros end. Now I'm going to talk about Linux pros. It's super customizable. Now I know people are gonna say, hey, you can do reg edits in Windows. You can just like search up for different launchers and stuff. You can, I mean, if you know how to customize Windows, you can definitely do that. I mean, I have desktop widgets. I cannot say that it isn't customizable, but it's not easy to customize. Plus, most of these are only like it's only an overview level of cost. Okay, what am I even saying? I mean, like, you're at most customizing only like a few widgets here, maybe one, I don't know, an extra icon in the taskbar. That's about the most that you can do on Windows. In Linux, oh my I mean, I had my own. I had my fork of DWM. I was like, I was editing the source code of my window manager every time I was making a change. It was so cool. I loved Linux. It was so good. Uh, so like It was basically limitless, and you could use any compositor you liked, and you could choose between like Xorg and Wayland and shit. It was so good. Here, I do not really have any of that. Most of the customizations you can do in Windows, if you can at all, are just surface level. Of course, you can have power toys and like so many stuff, but it just it doesn't. It's not Linux, and because of that, Linux can be really fun. I mean, I haven't really played games for the time that I was on Linux, and it wasn't necessarily because I couldn't get them installed, because I think you can get the games I want installed. It's just that I didn't need to. I was having enough fun, which I do not when I'm on Windows. Another thing, the Linux terminal is really well designed. Now, I'm saying this as someone who has basically zero experience with the Windows terminal. Even now, I barely use it. So you can take this with a grain of salt. But I personally really used the Linux terminal when I was on Linux. So to me, it's sort of like I'm way more comfortable using a terminal when I'm on Linux than I am with Windows. It with Linux, it's also easier to piece your Linux distro like on Arch. You can just like you're basically installing your OS by yourself. You're manually setting it up, and that just gives you such a good overview of how your OS works. Windows, I don't think it has such a thing. And the next one sort of ties in, like you don't really get a package manager out of the box with Windows. Of course, you can get Winget and Choco and stuff, but like you do not get them out of the box. With Linux, I mean, of course, that's what your distro is. It's basically your package manager. So like there are definitely some benefits. And another thing, this kind of ties back to the first 2 points, I guess, flexibility. I'm not, you know, Linux is way more flexible. Performance and efficiency. Now, this is a bit of an over exaggeration because, in terms of stuff like battery life, they both were pretty similar. In fact, I would argue that I probably seem to get better battery life on Windows. I mean, I haven't charged this even once today and it's still running. I've used it for at least 4 to 5 hours, so it's definitely running. And I don't think I've had this good of a battery life with this laptop on Linux. Probably a driver issue. I'm just stating my experience. However, Windows is worse in every single other regard. I'm just going to pull up System Monitor here, and you can check that. How do I? Oh my, 40% CPU. I'm actually used to seeing like 2-3% CPU when I'm not really doing okay. It is decreasing, but it's not 2% CPU usage. Somehow I have like 50% memory, which is around 8 gigs. How the hell did how did, I'm actually surprised my PC runs fine with this. Like it's just how does oh my God. And it's not just this, even my disk space. I barely installed anything, and for some reason, Windows already takes up like. Is there like a partition manager? Oh yeah, there is one. Um, where did it go? Oh yeah. Okay. So I've somehow already filled up like 47%. Is it 40? No, I'm bad at math. 37% of my disk. I barely even installed anything. So like how? I know I'm probably you I probably just sound really annoying right now. And if you're on a modern laptop, it might not make as much of a difference. You probably don't care. But you'd have to admit that Linux is way more performant and resource efficient than Windows, except for battery life, at least in my experience. Yeah. Now, here are some myths uh, that people have of the two. Uh, Most people think that Windows just works. I'll just say it kinda does, but it doesn't. Now, this is probably my fault, but when I switched back to Windows, I hadn't updated for basically didn't really update ever since I got this laptop with Windows. So, like, I had to update. And I noticed that after updating, the next day, my laptop speakers weren't working. And while I knew how to solve this in Linux, I was clueless in Windows. So I actually panicked. I asked my dad what to do, and I don't think he was of that much help. I then just like tried to update my laptop, and then I got it fixed. Which, I mean, to some extent, you can think that's really cool. Like I basically just pressed the update button, and then eventually everything got fixed. But what if it didn't? That's what scares me. So yeah, Windows doesn't just work. It gets quite close to that, I will admit, but it's not a just works experience. That's not Windows. It can be quite buggy often. And same goes to Linux. Some people, especially those in the server realm, would say that Linux is really stable, and it's really stable for servers. Desktop environments, I mean, I never really had them bug out on me too much. Like I'd say it's typically less buggy than Windows, but nor it's hard to explain, but Linux definitely is not bug free. You are going to face problems. For depending on the user, you can face even bigger problems than you do with Windows. So like, both are buggy experiences. Uh, Another myth that people assume is that you can't work on Linux because it has app compatibility. You can. There are quite a few apps, and I'm not going to say that they're unimportant apps because, like, stuff like Adobe products and like um, Blue Book, obviously. I know many games too do not work on Linux, and hence you would be forced on Windows unless you have a VM or something. But that's kind of, it's not really, you're not actually gaming it natively on Linux, so that kind of doesn't count. Um, so while you definitely do not have many of the exact same apps that you would on Windows, one good thing about Linux is that typically you have many open source alternatives. Now, Uh, most of those meet the requirements quite well. Obviously, some of them, like GIMP, GIMP is pretty powerful. Photoshop is way more powerful, and it's designed that way. But if you need Photoshop, you should probably just stay on Windows. But if you do not need every feature of Photoshop, I'd say, you could definitely try out many of the open source alternatives if you're interested in Linux. So it's definitely not impossible to work on Linux. It's just that you might need to change your mindset a bit if that's what you're into. Last thing, everyone says Windows is Windows lacks security, and that's true. But Linux isn't really a secure fort either. Um, I mean, for starters, you don't get an antivirus. Now you get like an SE Linux troubleshooter or something. I don't even know if that's like security. And obviously you can set up firewalls and stuff, but that's not an antivirus. Now, you do not need one yet, and Linux doesn't need an antivirus yet. But that's because I mean, 5% of the US desktop market share is Linux. No, I don't think hackers are making viruses for Linux just yet. So, of course, we're not going to get viruses on Linux. So, you do not need antivirus just yet. But say there is a a virus that some person actually designed to work on Linux and it would work in the OS you're running, yeah, you're screwed. So Linux isn't really secure. It's only secure because viruses aren't really made for it, usually. So yeah, that about sums up uh, Linux versus Windows. I would use Linux if I could, but I do not think I can really commit the time anymore. So I'm probably just gonna stick to Windows, at least until I get free again, because I had such a fun time. But yeah, use what works best for you, and there's no issue. There's nothing wrong with you if you stick to what you're using right now. It's just sometimes fun to test something else and broaden our mindset, I guess. So yeah, it's Linux versus Windows. See ya.